Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show, episode 117. I am your host, Michael Hansen, and I do all kinds of fantastic things with microphones because I'm a ring announcer and sometimes a cage announcer, and I'm joined this week, as I always am, by my two buddies, both of whom bring MMA punditry to new heights, dare I say. Introducing first, in the desert, Mark Priaulx. What's up, buddy? I could not wait to make that joke.
Oh, man. Yeah, we'll get to that one. What a wild fucking sequence of events. But yeah, what's up, boys? As I was just mentioning, I'm watching the Knicks. I thought we were pulling off a great opening night win over the Celtics, and it seems like that's not going to be the case at the moment. 30 seconds left. We'll see what happens.
And introducing from Florida, also the desert, Omar Artola. What's up, buddy?
What's going on? Finally got my waistline in order or whatever the hell is going on down there. So the injury is healing up. Hopefully I should be good for this Liam Harrison seminar soon because I'm not missing it.
You have a Liam Harrison seminar?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Yeah, I don't think you told us that.
A Liam Bad Company Harrison seminar?
That's correct, sir. That's correct.
Wow.
That's sick. When's that?
Yeah, man.
That is Monday.
Wow. All right.
Dope.
All right.
Real dope.
So your boy needs to be able to fucking do things by Monday. So I haven't got. This is the first time I haven't gone to the gym. It's been. I went actually this morning with my wife, and I did very little stretching, and that was about it.
Dude,
but I haven't.
Your gym has a pretty legit connection to these stars.
Yeah, man.
Didn't you get Rotang there fairly recently?
Yeah, Rotang came. This guy, I forget his name because I just called him the Muay Thai guy, but he's the Muay Thai guy on Instagram. Mm-hmm. He's really legit. Yeah, dude, they're because the guy that basically is like the head coach there. It was the Georgian Nightmare. That was his nickname, and he fought in that kind of European circuit and stuff like that. Was really good, and you know, has trained a lot of people that are there and knows a lot of people. Everybody's kind of fought in Thailand at some point there too. So yeah, there's a good lineage with my gym there. And I felt it. I felt the authenticity when I first went there. So that's kind of why I just went balls deep into it and trained as hard as I have because I knew it wasn't going to be a waste of time.
Cool, man. Awesome. Yeah, that is awesome. You know what's not awesome is that my 2-year-old has like toddler anger issues. He's just, every day we get him from daycare, it's just like another bad report that he's like, Today they said he was taking off his shoes and throwing his shoes at his teachers. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
So what do you do with that? Like, what do you do with that?
I don't know, man.
Is it just as simple as like you can't throw shoes at your teachers, but there's got to be something more to it, right? It's got to be a little bit more.
You know, he's 2.5, and I'm torn. And Mark, I'm interested for you to weigh in on this because this is and new parenting podcast right now. As a dad to some older ones, it's like I'm constantly having this ongoing conversation with my wife of like, is he too young to really like lay into him with discipline, or do we need to like really start getting on that now because you don't want him to be like a 5-year-old asshole? What do you think?
I feel like you are right at the age where I felt like I could start really trying. I mean, I always tried to have, even when they were littler, but like they don't really get it.
Right.
And I feel like you've kind of hit the age where they do start to get it a little bit. So I would try. And I would also try to have like real conversations, talking to them like they were going to understand everything I was saying, even if I knew they would only get like 50% of it.
Totally.
I'd try to like really explain why things were not okay and whatever. But yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. Thankfully, both of my kids were always good in public. It's us they would pull the shit with.
Totally,
like my son right now, who's whatever he is, 3 and whatever months. He's not 3.5 yet. But he, at home, will be a menace sometimes. Like, he'll, like, walk up to us and, like, hit us or, like, scream and, like, throw shit at us. But then in school, they're like, he is an angel. He helps everyone. He sits so still and listens. And I'm like, the fuck kid do you guys have in there? So it's, like, with us that he pulls the shit, not in public.
I now picture Mark's kid just, like, hugging his teachers, getting out of the car. He's just giving his teachers a nice hug. He looks back at Mark, and he's like...
That's literally what it's like. Dude, yesterday, I got home, and he was in a cardboard box that, like, playing inside of it. And I put my head in it, and my head entered the space. And there were magnetiles on the floor in the box. And in the time that I was able to look up to be like, hey, bud... He picked up a magnetile in each hand and went, whap, whap, across my forehead and said, get out of my box. And I was like, okay, good to see you too. Just
the tough one is that
smashing off my head.
My son must be taking things home that he is learning from the daycare, because sometimes at home, I'll never forget this, man. I'm like kind of being firm with him, and he gets all upset, and he starts throwing a fit, and he goes, shut up, daddy.
Oh, shit.
And I was like... What did you say? And where did you learn to say this? Because, like, that's Lindsay and I don't talk like that to each other, or I don't say shut up to anybody in my house. Right, he goes, shut up, daddy. He's, like, full of rage. I'm like, oh, my God. So that was the moment where I literally picked him up and, like, you're in your room right now. This is happening. Anyway, enough.
Done.
I've digressed way too much. Let's talk about some MMA.
I have one more question. We've got time. Has any one of your kids named you by or called you by your government name yet? Has that happened?
No.
Yeah, mine don't do that.
He knows mine. He knows our names, but
yeah, they both know our names, but they don't say them.
I'm just they wouldn't say it like on a regular basis. They'd say it to be assholes.
I'm sure he will one day.
What I mean?
Nah,
I'm waiting for it.
I tried that a little bit.
Regularly call their parents their real name, and the parents just accept it.
Nice.
I'm like, what is that about? Like, why do you let your kid call you your name? It's very strange.
I don't like that shit.
Yeah,
it's weird. Maybe when you're older, perhaps, like when you're like an adult. But even then, it's like for me, it's odd.
Yeah, I would never go up to my dad and be like, "What's up, Rob?" He would be like, "I'm sorry, what?" Like,
I definitely did do that a little bit in high school to my parents to be a bit of an asshole, because I was back then. But not anymore. My son did just start subbing out mommy and daddy for mom and dad, and it's kind of awesome.
I will say, good on you guys for taking a nice measured approach to your kids, telling you to like shut up and all this stuff. Because I remember when I did that, my fist went into my mom's mouth, and she said, "If you do it again, I'm gonna bite your hand off." So it's a better approach in your direction.
You punched your mom in the face?
I did not. I said something slick. She took my hand, put it in her mouth, and said, "If you do it, I'm going to bite your hand off."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I did not punch my mom in the face. What the fuck?
I thought that's what you said.
That's what I meant.
Oh, no.
You said my fist went into my mom's mouth.
Yes.
Anyway.
Not by my...
We have digressed.
It's not my decision there.
We have digressed. For more parenting tips.
Internet cord again. So while you start introing this, I'm going to walk off the screen.
So we have a little bit of a half show for you guys this week, because we have fights to recap, but there is no MMA to preview. We have the rare dark weekend coming up this weekend. So sort of a weekend off, but it's going to feel kind of empty, don't you think, Omar? It's going to feel kind of lonely.
I mean, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, we'll be all right.
A little break never killed anyone.
There is some combat sports action that's not MMA, which we might kind of touch on a little bit later on. But
yeah.
Let's quickly run down this episode agenda. We're going to talk about all the fights from this past weekend's crazy pay-per-view, UFC 294, Makhachev versus Volkanovski 2. We're going to recap all of the fights that we previewed last weekend, and then we're going to throw the remainder into our lightning round. Because it was a UFC pay-per-view, we are going to get a rankings update. And by rankings, I am referring to, of course, the Priaulx Rankings, Mark's very own rankings that he meticulously maintains every week, and he updates every week on the heels of each and every single UFC card. Then we're going to dive headfirst inside the MMA sphere and find out what's going on in the world of MMA outside of the cage with Omar. And then we might end with a little bit of trivia. Once again, no fights to preview for this coming weekend. So, before we get into any of these recaps, gentlemen, let us first address and thank our audience. If you guys are watching this right now on YouTube, hey, thank you so much. You're looking great. Do us a favor, hit the thumbs up. Costs you nothing, but it helps our channel out so much. If you've been watching a few of our clips and you've been liking what you've been watching and you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our channel. This way, we get the subs. Again, it's free for you. Helps us out immensely. And you won't miss another video. Hit the bell icon if you've been really digging what you've been watching so that you get a little ping every time we drop a new episode or clips. If you want audio only, we got you there. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, find us on social media. You can find us on all the relevant platforms at @&new_MMA show. Okay. All right. I think that just about does it here. Queuing up episode 117. Wow, we've been doing this 117 episodes, gentlemen. Let's get into this one. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Islam Makhachev, who this past weekend at UFC 294 at the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi, UAE, retains his UFC undisputed lightweight title by defeating once again Alexander Volkanovski. This time, finishing Alexander the Great in the first round with a head kick followed up by punches. The official time coming at 3:06 of the very first round. Mark, give us your reaction to this fight, how it unfolded, how it played out, and ultimately how it finished with Islam getting his hand raised once again.
This thing was just such a sequence of emotions for me the whole time because, as you guys know, initially I hated that this fight had to happen on 10 days' notice. Obviously I get it. Volk wanted to jump at the opportunity, but just a fight of this magnitude, I didn't like it happening on 10 days' notice. I already feel the same way about Aspinall and Pavlovich, which we'll get to, which obviously just got booked today. So I had that concern coming into the fight, and then Volk makes the walk, and I'm like, all right, maybe this dude's ready to go. Maybe we're going to get a great fight here. And then it starts, and maybe it's just because he looked a little out of shape, and maybe your mind plays tricks on you when you see that. But 10 seconds in, I'm like, man, he looks a little stiff. He looks a little slow. And I was concerned from that. Then Islam shoots and Volk stuffs it and he yells and he turns around the clinch against the fence. And I was like, damn, all right. Maybe I'm bugging. Maybe he's ready to go. This is going to be great. And then 10 seconds later, the fight's over. And we didn't get anything. I mean, we got something for sure. We got an enormous statement from Islam, but I just had these hopes of another classic, and it did not happen. But, I take nothing away from Islam. He is the best lightweight in the world at the moment. He proves it yet again. To go in there and finish the arguable best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, on short notice or not, in about 3 minutes is wild. And to do it with his striking. And we've been preaching this all along. We always say this. It seems like a lot of other people constantly forget this because they just lump him in as the next Khabib and it's wrestling. But Islam has always been and continues to be a hell of a striker. It is a large part of his game, and he showed it again. It was a beautiful setup. Apparently he saw this in the first fight, and it was a focus for them. He went to the body with the left kick to get Volk thinking about that, and then he went high, and it connected. And he got Volk out of there, man. So an absolutely huge statement from Islam regarding, showing how damn good he is and how high of a hurdle he is going to be for any of these other lightweights to have to try to clear. And was Volk at his best? Maybe not. Obviously, you heard him after the fight kind of getting real emotional and saying that he knew he wasn't, hadn't really been training and wasn't in a great spot, but he just felt like it was fate when he got the offer, and he had to take it, and he believed it was all going to come together. And you could tell he didn't want to make excuses, but you could tell he was pretty broken up about it, because you got to think that's his last chance now. I doubt he gets a third shot, unless it's years from now and they both just keep winning fights, but that's a big ask.
Yeah, man.
So this series is probably over, and Islam certainly closes the book on that one without any real debate on who was the better man.
Omar, give us your thoughts as this fight played out in the 3 minutes that it lasted.
Yeah, the left kick from... So, I mean, the one of the main reasons why that setup even worked the way that it did is because you were having a fight between a southpaw and an orthodox fighter. So you immediately, when you have these opposing stances, the body kicks and the power of the body kicks opens up on essentially on the open side, right? It's normally when you guys have the same stance, the protection that you normally get from that stance comes naturally as a result of the fact that you guys are both kicking from the same side, right? But here it's a little bit more open, and so there was a lot more opportunity to set up that kick, a lot more opportunity to use the power shot to do it. And in the first fight, he was doing it quite a bit. I don't even think he saw it really in the first fight while he was doing it. I think he just saw the opportunity and went for it when it was open. But in this fight, I think he used it purposefully, obviously, to kind of set up that head kick. Because even when he went for that head kick, he was kind of programming the body kick as he was moving back, as he was getting Volk to kind of shift his way back towards the fence. And it was a beautiful setup, man. It was really, really nice. It landed clean on Volk's head. It was rough. It was rough because just like Mark said, as far as a rematch with Islam at this point, that's probably never going to happen. And short of Islam leaving and somebody else taking the belt, I truly believe Volkanovski could fight again for another interim or for another lightweight belt. But I just don't think it's going to happen as long as Islam is the champion.
Yeah, if he keeps turning back every single featherweight challenger, the idea of them being not necessarily for a belt, but of being, pretend someone like a Gaethje is not the champion at this moment I'm referring to. Of them being
Right.
super fight, Volkanovski versus Gaethje. I could absolutely see that. I don't think he's necessarily done taking lightweight fights. It just, like you said, to have a crack at the title, he would need that title to change hands.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of like what Volk did to Max is what Islam has done to Volk.
Sort of.
A little bit, yeah.
Across divisions, but yeah, sure.
Right. Let's talk about the 12 days notice. How much do you guys think that was a factor or not at all? If you think Omar, even if Volk had an 8-week camp, came in incredible shape, would Islam still have programmed him with body kicks and landed that head kick?
It's very possible, but at the same time, we don't know though if Volk's camp would have been able to catch that either, right? There would have been a lot of tapes that they would have been reviewing. I'm sure they would have watched the first fight probably on repeat nonstop, taking a shower, watching the fight, cooking, watching the fight. You know what I mean? So we don't know what those weeks of preparation could have led to, and they could have been able to make adjustments way before they actually showed up to the fight. Volk was basically just kind of pissing in the wind. To be fair, Islam kind of had to have the same sort of adjustments though on the fly as well, right? Yeah, Islam also while he was in camp for somebody else, he was still only had a few days to prepare for Volkanovski again. And if we remember that first fight, Volkanovski gave that dude all he could handle in that first fight. Yep. So, to go in there with the assumption that all of a sudden you're just going to wreck Volkanovski, I don't obviously think he did that, but there had to have been some adjustments, things that they were able to make the adjustments within the time frame that they had as well. And using that body kick is just something that would have worked for him throughout the fight, regardless of the knockout. Again, that body kick was there in the first fight. The body kick was there in the second fight. If it wasn't a body kick, it was going to be a low kick. If it wasn't a low kick, it could have been a high kick. The point is that left kick was there for him and was going to continuously be there for him with the range that Islam had in that fight against Volkanovski and the stance difference that they had. So the fact that it ended up in a head kick just goes to show how well Islam can do what he does.
Yeah.
But that body kick, man, that body kick was money.
Well, it is the first time that Volkanovski, he didn't lose back-to-back fights, but first time he has lost fights in this quick succession in his entire career.
Yeah.
And Islam Makhachev just rolls on, man. Let's talk about what could be next for the lightweight champ. Mark, what do you think?
Well, obviously, we know it's going to be one of Charles Oliveira or Justin Gaethje. To me, now that we have hit the point that we've hit here, as much as I love Charles, it almost feels like now that you have both of them waiting, it makes more sense to give the first shot to Gaethje, simply because he hasn't had a shot against Islam before, and he's the one that's 100% ready to go, whereas Charles needs to get this cut to heal and get back in training. And I would guess that Islam wants to fight before Ramadan, which starts in March. So it's not like we're waiting that long to book a fight, assuming that's the case. So I don't know. To me, I think Gaethje probably makes more sense, and Charles could take a fight if he wanted, or could even just wait for the winner of that fight. But Dana has made it seem like the plan is still to go with Charles. So I guess we'll have to see what they do here. It's a long time to kind of sit on the sidelines if it does end up being Charles for Justin Gaethje. So sucks for either guy, for sure. Someone's going to have to wait.
I like the point that Gaethje made, man. It does feel like a fresher matchup, obviously, because these two guys have not fought. And I think that it would be good for the lightweight belt. What do you think, Omar?
I think we've also I think we've had a past where we've talked about Gaethje getting a rematch against Khabib, especially after that first fight and all these kind of things, and we never had that opportunity after Khabib had obviously retired. And I think, Justin has been talking about this over and over again, how, everybody talks about Islam being the next Khabib, and he kind of wants to test that for himself, especially because he's never gotten an opportunity to get that back. So I like the fight. I think Justin knocking out Dustin Poirier kind of should give you a golden ticket to do whatever the fuck you want in your next fight. So if he wants a title shot, I think he's definitely earned it. If Charles isn't ready, then it should go to Justin at this point.
Islam Makhachev improves his pro record to 25-1 and now is riding a 13-fight win streak in the UFC.
Imagine he had never gotten caught by Adriano Martins. What a record that would be.
If he was fucking 26-0 right now.
Yeah.
What did Khabib finish at? 26-0 or 29-0?
29-0?
9, right?
Yeah, that was the whole thing, is that he never did.
Was he going to go for 30, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm confirming that, but I'm pretty positive.
Mr. Volkanovski, not too far off. His record falls to 26-3.
Horrible.
Horrible. He still has only lost ever to two men, but now has back-to-back losses to the same man. Again, back-to-back losses to the same guy that he lost. Anyway,
dude, it's gonna eat at him, man. And I think we talked about this over text message, but that shit is. I feel like it eats at me. It's not even my fucking fight. It has nothing to do with me. But like, it's gonna eat at him that he took this fight on short notice. He gambled everything. I mean, this is it's almost like a little bit of like some degenerate shit, right? Like he put everything on the line through like gambling. Like he put everything into like a one hand, had no idea what the fuck was gonna happen, wasn't prepared, and was just kind of like, I feel lucky. I'll be fine. Everything will be great. Yeah.
I mean,
and I don't even think he thought that. I really don't even think he thought that. I think he was just like, the stars are aligned, and I think he kind of deluded himself 100%. Into thinking that this was a moment for him. And from listening to a little bit of his post-fight interview when he was talking about not being able to be in camp and train and things like that, like there is an obsession, and GSP's talked about it before, about the obsession that comes with being a champion, right? Like that this is the level of craziness and love that you have to do this in order to be at the level that these guys are at. I don't train at that level, and I hate not training. So I can only imagine what it does to some of these guys who live for it, literally live for the sport. So
it's a really weird moment in that press conference afterwards, where he almost like said in a pleading way, he addressed the UFC. He's like, "Please keep me active. Like I need to be."
He said it in the cage. He said the same thing in the cage.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was the Australian version of "just let me bang, bro." That's what it was.
For sure.
Yeah.
So he still is a champion. He still is the UFC undisputed featherweight champion. What could be next for him? He probably is going to step away from lightweight for some period of time. Maybe he'll be back. But what's next for the belt, Mark?
I mean, as long as he can get medically cleared, I'd love for us to still get the Volkanovski versus Topuria matchup as planned. You know, that's an incredible fight. I think it got a little bit forgotten about in the hype of all this happening. But, like, remember back a couple weeks ago, we were all hyped as shit for that fight. Like, that's a very big fight. Topuria is maybe the most interesting challenger Volk has had at featherweight in a while. So I don't know what the situation is going to be. Obviously, he didn't get knocked out necessarily, but nearly. So I don't know what the getting cleared situation is going to be in terms of being allowed to fight in January, but hopefully he can, and hopefully we still get that fight.
Omar, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I imagine we're going to go at this point. Obviously, if he's not ready for whatever reason, if he does need to take time off, because shins to the head are not a great thing. I know, when that happened to somebody that I know at the gym, we were all very much like, stop trying to look for a fight, dog. Just chill out. You're going to need some time to heal. So maybe his team does that. I mean, we'll see what happens. But if he is ready, he should be taking the fight against Topuria. If not, if it is Max and Topuria, then obviously we need to see him against the winner.
Okay.
It's crazy that there's a scenario where we could already have another Volk Max fight if it plays out in that way.
I know. Topuria is really
would that be their
just
fourth?
Yes.
Their fourth.
Fourth
But
in a
like-
series that's 3-0.
Topuria might be one of the first people now to seriously give me some real hesitation on
Oh, yeah.
Oh, for sure.
on like picking against him against some of these like top guys.
Oh, he's scary.
I'm very quick to pick, Max Holloway in just about any fight. I'm quick to pick
Right.
Volkanovski in just about any fight. But when I stop and have to think about Topuria, I have real reservations going into those picks.
It's very funny what happens in MMA when you see seeing a guy lose a close fight is one thing, but when you see a guy either get very clearly beat or get finished, how your mind becomes open to more possibilities. Because, like, as much as I think Topuria is incredible and arguably the toughest challenge Volk will have at featherweight in a while, there's no shot I would have considered picking him just because Volk is Volk. And now, seeing Volk get finished, I'm like, well, shit, like, do I definitely pick Volk? Like, it just your mind can change so fast just from seeing one bad night from a fighter.
Yeah, and you got to wonder if that happens.
Invincibility aura goes,
and does it go for the fighters themselves too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because, man, God, how good is Islam Makhachev? How good is this man? Like, how do you beat this guy? How do you beat this guy other than what Martins did? You just have to catch him.
The only thing, I feel like Charles fought a very bad fight against him, so I'm still interested to see a guy with that kind of jits fight him. I just didn't like Charles' approach in that fight. But that aside, the only thing I can really think of is a dude who is just going to, like, put constant offense in his face. And not saying that's going to work. Like, and that type of person is a Justin Gaethje. And I would be picking Islam if that fight got booked today. But, like, that's the only... I feel like both Charles and Volk were very... You can't go by the second fight, but the first Volk fight and the Charles fight. They were both very respecting of Islam, more than I thought they would be in the striking aggression, which obviously is because of the wrestling. But I wonder if Gaethje would be more aggressive, and I wonder if that's, like, the only thing we have not seen someone try to utilize yet.
It does beg the question that is he going to approach that fight the way that he should have approached the first Khabib fight? Because the only Khabib fight, in the Khabib fight, he gave him too much respect, almost the way that
100%.
Volk and Volk did to Islam. So it begs the question: does he almost approach this like a rematch with Khabib, right? With some differences in the striking and stuff like that, for sure. He's not an idiot, but the idea being not to give him that much respect, right? Not to give the wrestling that much respect. He can wrestle too. He can do shit and potentially push forward in that fight instead of being on his back foot the whole time.
That's what I mean. To get Islam on the back foot, I guess, is the summary of what I'm trying to say here. But the curveball is that Islam's a better striker than Khabib ever was.
100%. Khabib had an overhand right, and that was
Yes.
about it.
Exactly. Like Gaethje could try to put Islam on the back foot and get fucking one hitter quittered onto his face. Like who knows?
Yeah.
That's what drove me fucking crazy about the Conor fight. Fucking Khabib has one punch, and Conor got hit by it. Conor can't get hit by goddamn anything, and he gets hit by the one fucking punch that Khabib hits.
He was so concerned with the wrestling.
Ridiculous. Drives me wild.
Yeah. Yeah, Khabib and Islam to me are very different. Islam is just so complete, man. He's so complete.
He is. I mean, he's taken what Khabib did great and added it to what he already does great. And now you have a real fucking problem at 155 that's not going away until he decides to.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, let's move on, man. Congrats to Islam, dude. So good.
Dude, he
He's
was in
so
top
good.
form too. Like
He
like
really
me and Mark were talking about it. What was it the face off or was it the walkout? Might have been the walkout.
Yeah, the walkout.
Dude, Islam looked like on point. Physically and mentally, he was dialed in. You could see the vast difference between the way that he walked out and the way that Volk walked out.
Okay, here we go. In the co-main event, Khamzat Chimaev defeats Kamaru Usman by a majority decision. One judge scored it 28-28. Now, hold on. Let me pull up the scorecard so I can say the names of these judges. Pause. Here we go. Okay. David Lethaby scored it 28-28 even. And Vito, how do you say his name? Paolilli? No, Paolillo.
Couldn't tell you.
Paulilo.
And Derek Cleary both scored the fight 29-27 for Chimaev. But the scorecards were a bit different. All three judges gave Chimaev round one as a 10-8. And then the differing scores for the Chimaev cards were the remaining two rounds were split. So Vito gave Chimaev round two and gave Kamaru round three. And Derek Cleary was the opposite. Gave Kamaru round two and gave Chimaev round three. So a very close fight overall. Omar, give us your take. Who do you think won this fight?
I don't think there was a winner. I think this
it was a
was
draw?
supposed to be a draw. I do. I think the first round is the one that's the most inarguable, right? It is a 10-8 round. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I don't even know if Usman threw a punch in that round. Not even entirely sure. And no shade. I mean, he had to make sure that he wasn't getting choked out by Khamzat, who was a fucking meat grinder for that entire first round. I think we also learned a lot of things in this fight as well. I think we learned that Khamzat doesn't have that gas tank to do that consistently for 3 rounds. I think we learned that Khamzat's striking, while it's good, is perhaps not all the way elite. And I think we know that he's going to be at the top for a while. But it does beg the question that once we get to the top of the mountain itself, the top 2, top 3, a lot of these guys, may not be susceptible to what Khamzat has to bring. If I feel like if you get out of the first round, I think we're getting to that point with Chimaev. If you get out of the first round, you have a better shot at beating him than if you don't. But I thought the fight was good. I thought that Usman showed a lot of championship mentality in that fight, going the way that he did in round 2 and round 3. I think they gave a lot of emphasis on a takedown that Chimaev basically didn't do too much with, where Usman had done the bigger damage and landed bigger shots in that round. So I think that Usman took the second round. I think Usman clearly took the third round just as Chimaev was slowing down completely. And it wasn't an ass beating by any stretch of the imagination, but Usman was able to kind of get a rhythm going that allowed him to land a lot more shots in the third round than Chimaev did. I think in the end, I don't know if I loved Usman up at 185. I don't know if I hated him at 185, if we're being honest. But I feel like it took a little bit away of the boogeyman perspective from Chimaev. I think he was a lot more humanized in that fight. As good as it was and as solid as it was, I think he was humanized in that fight. And so I don't really know. I mean, luckily for him, he came away with a W and not a draw, but I'm not sure how much it. I mean, I guess they're going to push him, so it is what it is. But from a fan perspective, I wonder how much of a tarnish it may have potentially been to the image of, this unstoppable, untouchable fighter.
Mark, what are your thoughts? Do you think it was a draw?
A lot of similar points there. 2 points that I am planning to make. Firstly, this was a very cool fight. Just seeing these two guys in the cage, especially when it's not something we were really expecting until whatever it was 10 days before. Like, when they really walked out and got in the cage, I was like, fuck, Usman's going to fight Chimaev. Like, it was just a cool matchup. And then that pre-fight image where Usman is in his typical crouch on one side and Khamzat is crouched down, like, smirking at him on the other side. That was fucking awesome. That was, like, an iconic shot. But, yeah, it was a cool fight. And the Chimaev that we saw in round 1 was absolutely terrifying. It is borderline impossible to deal with that man. To even get Usman in the position that he got him in was noteworthy. But then on top of that, Usman is defending so well in every way. He did a great job to survive, but to see him do all the right things and still be completely unable to escape at all says a lot about the talent of Khamzat Chimaev. So that was a big statement round from him. But then from there, I don't know, man. I understand that we found out after the fight that he broke his hand. But was that all on the broken hand? Because it sure seemed like the cardio was not in the same place as it was in round 1. And I said this when we previewed it. I said, what happens if he goes to wrestle really aggressively in round 1 and Usman makes him work? And he made him work in a different way than I imagined. Usman was certainly struggling, but he still did make Chimaev work. And we saw it. He just, the pace very clearly slowed. And he said, I couldn't go for takedowns because I couldn't grab him with my hand. Who knows? But either way, the question of this cardio is going to remain now until he shows us otherwise. And whether it was the cardio or the hand, in this fight, for the first time, really, he was forced to spend long periods of time exchanging on the feet with someone. I shouldn't say for the first time. He did with Gilbert. But that was a brawl. This, and we saw Chimaev can do well in a brawl. This, he was forced to technically box with Kamaru, and it did not go so well for him. We certainly saw some holes in his game that Kamaru was able to exploit by boxing technically and not allowing it to be that brawl that Chimaev thrives in. And yeah, I agree. There is an argument to be made that Kamaru won both round 2 and round 3, and that fight should have been scored a draw. Gun to my head, I gave him both rounds. I do think they were both really close. Round 2, not a lot that was noteworthy happened, to be honest. And I think that came down to scoring pretty tight. I did edge it to Usman. And then round 3, Usman is way ahead, but then he gets taken down with whatever it was, 2.5 minutes left. It was like half of the round that he spent under Chimaev to close out that round after being way ahead. So they're both close. I do think it could have been a draw. I have zero problem with Chimaev getting the W, just because even if Kamaru did win rounds 2 and round 3, they were both by a hair, and obviously Chimaev blew him out in round 1. So overall, I do feel like Chimaev won that fight, so him getting the W sits okay with me. But, you can't help but wonder what happens in that fight if Kamaru hadn't just come off the couch, or even if he just got 2 more rounds in that shape he was in. What does he win that fight? It certainly was feeling like that was going to be the case. So I don't know. It was a good showing from Usman for sure. And even though Chimaev won, I got the same take as Omar. I think a little bit of that scariness, that boogeyman quality that he carries kind of got stripped away in this fight.
Yeah, man. Every time he fights somebody else, sort of in the upper echelon, whether it be at welterweight or middleweight, although this was still kind of unofficially a welterweight fight, in my opinion, because it's Kamaru Usman, we learn more about him, the good and the bad. Khamzat Chimaev, the fastest starter in the UFC? I think so. Yeah. Like, he has to win that trophy.
Terrence McKinney?
Ooh, you got me. But man, what a promotional star is this guy. He's such a firecracker of a personality and of a fighter. And is he going back to welterweight at any point, or is he kind of officially or unofficially like he's a middleweight now? Like
He's a middleweight.
I think he's been told that he's a middleweight.
Yeah. Usman is the one now that I'm thinking, like, what are you going to be doing now? You know, I didn't even really consider him actually moving up to 185 until he actually did it. So now I wonder if he's staying, maybe sticking around for a couple of good fights, maybe goes to 170. Because 170 is also a fucking mess. So if he's looking for activity, maybe 185 might be a little bit better for him for now.
Maybe, man, but those guys are
Huge.
they're a lot bigger at 185.
They're gigantic. No, I listen, personally, looking at a list of fighters while I was trying to pick who's next for him, they all kind of scared the shit out of me for Usman, if we're being honest.
I got one
at middleweight.
I got
yes,
one
at middleweight.
love.
Of course, we must not forget that Kamaru Usman has a win over the middleweight champ back in the welterweight days. But that cannot be ignored. It's the same man.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So that being, let's segue right into this. So, Omar, start with yours. Because Mark seems to have a real juicy pick. So, Omar, start with yours about Kamaru Usman's potential next middleweight matchup. I think is what you're getting into.
I mean, I picked one for both because I really don't know where he's going. But the one that I landed on, because like I said, they were all kind of fucking crazy. But the one that I landed on for middleweight, I figured would be Paulo Costa. I feel like if Paulo could get his shit together and his arm back together and, you know, make sure that his elbow doesn't fall apart, I think a fight with him and Kamaru Usman would be very intriguing.
I guess so. Okay, and welterweight?
And welterweight, I had him fighting the winner of Shavkat and Wonderboy.
Sure. Okay, Mark.
If it was welterweight, I would probably agree with that take. I didn't like the idea of him fighting Bilal. That made no sense to me, considering Bilal should be next. And then if he lost that fight, what's going to happen? Usman's going to fight for the title again. So, yeah, I never liked that rumor. But he seems to have plans of sticking at middleweight, at least not necessarily permanently, but at least for a bit. And I get it because there's not that many fresh matchups for the moment at welterweight, and I think he sees that he felt okay up at 185 and that he could have some fights with some fun names up there. He mentioned Dricus du Plessis. I don't love that. I don't think that's even something Dricus should have to do at the moment. No. But there's one name that I just feel like is perfect, and it's Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker is one of the smaller middleweights. The legacy that they both had, they were both champ together of 170 and 185 for quite some time. I think that would be a phenomenal fight. And then I'll be honest, I did have the idea first, but like 3 hours before the show, I was scrolling social media, and apparently Robert Whittaker is calling for that fight.
Yeah,
no way.
Yeah, I did see that.
That would be pretty dope.
So yeah, I would love that.
Wow.
Love it.
You're right. Whittaker, not the biggest middleweight, also has some fights down at 170 for a period of time.
Yep.
I believe it was the Wonderboy loss that propelled him up to a different weight class. Am I wrong?
Ooh, I don't remember.
You're right.
Okay, let's move on.
We didn't do Chimaev. Did we do Chimaev?
Oh, nope, we got to do Chimaev, man. Mark, what do you got for Chimaev? Put on that matchmaker hat. What would you do next with the Wolf, the Chechen Wolf?
I don't know, man. I don't really like the idea of him getting a middleweight title shot. I know apparently this is what was promised to these guys, and it sounds like that's what we're going to get.
I guess.
But to beat a welterweight who came off the couch on 10 days' notice and get a title shot is just not my favorite thing in the world. I mean, of course, beating Usman matters, and it's a big thing. But he's just not a middleweight. And aside from that, his best win over a middleweight is Gerald Meerschaert. So
that's impossible.
I guess if you want to count Kevin Holland, who is a former middleweight, I guess that's reasonable. But even that fight came together on 24 hours' notice. So, like, I don't know. I need one quality middleweight win before I give you a title shot. It just seems crazy to me. But the problem is, Izzy's taking time off. Cannonier's hurt, and I think that's a person who would have made a lot of sense to fight Strickland, considering they recently had a very close fight. So it kind of boils down to, like, Dricus or Chimaev for the next shot, and I think Chimaev is in much better favor with Dana than Dricus is right now. So I don't know. I guess it's what we're going to get. It certainly sounds like it's what we're going to get.
You think that to earn a middleweight title shot, you have to beat some middleweights to get there.
Yeah.
Tell fucking GSP that. The hell?
Well, he was champ of the other weight class for ages and ages. Chimaev has never even been a champ.
It's true. But not a middleweight did he fight until.
And the last time he fought a middleweight was Mearshart, was in 2020. And now he has fought 4 welterweights since then.
Yeah. He all but
be
murdered Mearshart,
frustrating.
though.
That was just
that was
also one fight.
It's a wild fight. I wouldn't mind seeing Vettori and Chimaev go at it. I think that could be a fun fight.
Man, I'm still on this. I still can't believe it. Was the John Phillips fight a middleweight bout? Because I know Reese McKee was welterweight.
Phillips was middleweight.
So in the UFC, Khamzat Chimaev has defeated 2 middleweights, John Phillips and Gerald Mearshart. And Mearshart's good.
Correct. And sort of Holland, if you want. Holland has a lot of wins over legit middleweights. I feel like it half counts.
It does, even though he's a welterweight now. And Usman was a welterweight. It's just weird, man.
I know.
Does he have a win over a single ranked middleweight? That's a relevant question. I don't think so, right?
No.
Yeah, certainly not.
No.
No way.
And you're going to tell me to go from this to a title shot? That's so
The
frustrating.
issue is just what else do you do? Like I said, Izzy's taking time. Cannonier's hurt. It's not going to be Whitaker. It's not going to be Vettori. He's coming off a loss. Beyond that, you're getting into guys that are just too low. It's Dricus or it's Chimaev. And it really seems like Dana's mad at Dricus for dropping out of that Izzy fight. So I think it's going to be Chimaev. I just don't see what else we do here. I think the Cannonier injury fucked it all up. If we could have got Cannonier fighting Strickland and then Dricus fights Chimaev, all would have been well.
Wow. That's nuts, man. I mean, if it's Strickland and Chimaev, I don't hate Chimaev in that matchup. I don't.
No.
I don't either, especially not for the first round.
So nuts.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Same thing. And again, we don't know if it was the hand or what, but if Strickland can survive round 1, he's going to put a hell of a pace on Chimaev going forward.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Strickland's not going to slow down. Chimaev, we've already seen, does. Whether it was the broken hand or not, Chimaev definitely slowed down in the second and then even more so in the third.
Yep.
Okay. Let's move on now to, oh, man. I've been waiting to talk about this fight, man. Okay. UFC 294 in Abu Dhabi, in the middle of the main card, in the light heavyweight division, there was a fight between Magomed Ankalaev and Johnny Walker. This fight ended in a no contest due to an illegal knee in the first round. The round ended, the official time, 3 minutes and 13 seconds of round 1. Mark, set the scene for us, buddy. What the hell happened here?
This was an absolute mess of the highest order from every single person who had a role in that cage. Ankalaev, Walker, the referee, and the doctor. Firstly, Ankalaev, what are you doing, bro? He is so obviously down in that scenario. I don't know what could have even made him think that he wasn't down. So right off the bat, there's a real argument to be made that this should have just been a DQ, pure and simple.
Yes.
Because
I'm getting there. I'll get there.
There's no making a mistake. Oh, I didn't realize he was down. He's been down for like a hot minute. You're on top of him. So there's that argument if you want to go that route. From there, you get to Johnny Walker, who says that he knew he was in Abu Dhabi, but he didn't want to answer with Abu Dhabi just in case. So he answered with in the desert. Like, dude, maybe just answer with Abu Dhabi and the fight is still going on. Like, why are we getting cute in that spot and even creating any risk at all? So, but with that said, I don't really want to fault him because my main point is why are both the doctor and the referee rushing that whole interaction in the first minute after he has gotten kneed in the head?
Literally.
Like, the doctor just rushes in, checks him for nothing. He's just like, I'm going to ask you 2 quiz questions, and then I'm going to make a decision. Doesn't love his answers that he gets, and he's like, cool, fight's over. And then you have this ref who's just like, wow, all right then, let me wave this thing off. Like,
Thank you.
No thought of being like, hold on, Doc, he gets 5 minutes. Like, maybe let's give him some time, and then we'll check him out again. Like, the ref is just like, well, guess that's the end of that. So the whole thing is a catastrophe. I mean, the dude is mid-fist fight. He just got kneed in the head. Do you think maybe we could give him a minute before we start a pop quiz? So it's a mess.
So it was bizarre. It was really bizarre.
Completely bizarre. I agree. It's hard to believe it's actually how it played out. It was just, the whole thing was horribly mishandled, and we got robbed of a good fight because of it, because it had actually been an intriguing fight to that point. So hopefully we're going to get to see it again soon, but holy fuck, what a shit show.
Better refs, and I don't know this ref that well. Maybe he's a very good ref, but this
Maybe
was
he's not.
if he is a great ref, this was not his best moment. I feel like a Jason Herzog or a Herb Dean or a John McCarthy would have said to the doctor, like, "Oh, hold on, like he's got a full 5 minutes. Let's give him a second." Because also, like, he ate the knee, but he also was like kind of okay. Am I wrong?
Completely okay.
Yeah.
And then you have a doctor who, I'm not going to make assumptions about this doctor's ethnicity or linguistic background. A doctor who I believe was speaking in English to a Brazilian who speaks broken English, asking the Brazilian questions, and as you said, who is in the middle of a fist fight, and he asks him, "Where are you?" Which, to defend Johnny Walker a little bit, is a little bit of a broad question. Like, how do you want me to answer this question? Like, at the arena, in Abu Dhabi, in the UAE, in the Middle East. So Johnny Walker,
In the octagon.
in the octagon, like at the fight, like which is going to be a right or wrong answer? And he went with, I guess, like the broadest possible. As he goes, we're in the desert. He's not wrong. Like, they're in the desert.
He's
And
not
then the
wrong.
doctor just turns around. He's like, this fight's over.
Well, he also asked him what round they were in, and it didn't seem like Walker answered. But, dude, fighters forget what round they're in
all the time.
Fucking time. Like, you
All
are
the
in there
time.
fighting for your life. It is not your job to remember what round you're in. If we're doing a concussion test, that is one of the worst questions I can possibly imagine to evaluate a fighter's mental status at that moment.
Yeah. I 100%
right.
agree. I 100% agree.
And, like, where were the cojones on the ref to be like, but he has 5 minutes to recover from this?
Well, he didn't look like he knew what the fuck he was doing either, though. He looked just as lost as everybody else.
No.
And I think the real issue too is this unintentional, intentional bullshit that we keep going back to
That's
time and
what it
time
is.
again.
Yeah.
And I really hate it. And I think we need to stop trying to box these definitions of unintentional and intentional as an actual intent, right? I don't think on a rare day in hell are we going to find somebody who genuinely intended, like with malice, to throw an illegal shot, right? I don't know if we're going to see that on a regular basis. What we are going to see are things like this, where a fighter has done nothing basically to change their position. There is no in-motion shit going on. Ankalaev posts on a downed opponent and throws a knee in his face. That is the literal definition of intentional. I don't care whether he meant to do it, whether he missed, or whatever bullshit.
Heat of the moment kind of thing.
It's a fight. The whole thing is heated. You got to keep your shit together. You know what I mean? No one's throat punching anybody out there. No one's kicking anybody in the dick intentionally from time to time. Everybody has to have control over their strikes, and that matters whether you're striking, whether you're on the ground, whether you're on the fence, no matter where. And Ankalaev 100% threw that strike, and it was an intentional strike. He meant to throw that strike. It was planned and it was intentional. Whether he meant to land it in an illegal area or not is completely fucking irrelevant. That is where it landed. It is an intentional strike. Unintentional, the way that I perceive it, the way that it should be, at least in my head, if it's not already, is in motion stuff. We see it a lot too, where guys are maybe throwing kicks at each other, right? One kick looks like it was going to land on the inside of the leg. Guy moves in a different direction, and all of a sudden it becomes a dick shot. To me, that's an unintentional strike. I wasn't aiming for your dick. You ran into my leg with your dick. It's still an illegal strike. We still need to stop the fight and things like that. But To me, that's unintentional. We've seen it too with back of the head strikes where guys are hammer fisting in a good spot, right, against the face or whatever, and then all of a sudden a guy turns around, exposes the back of his head on the way down from a strike, and now I've hit the back of the guy's head. That wasn't an intentional strike. You know what I mean? These are things that we really need to start making distinctions about because, frankly, Ankalaev should have lost that fucking fight. That was a DQ 100%, not a no contest. Johnny Walker should have been the winner of that fight.
To your point, like when it comes to things like these need to a down opponent or a groin shot or eye pokes, there seems to be an overall reluctance on the part of the referees to quote unquote interfere in the outcome of a fight. Like the refs feel like if they start taking points more liberally, then that'll be more of them sort of putting themselves in the spotlight of these fights.
I mean, the real problem is that we take a lot of these cues, a lot of our scoring cues and penalty cues and things like that from boxing. Boxing has like fucking 12 rounds to do all these different things. You take 1 point away in a fight, it's probably not the end of the world. You take a point away from a 3-round fight, that's probably the whole fucking fight right there. Just like we saw with Chimaev, who got a 10-8 round, right? Basically losing point, an extra point loss for Kamaru Usman. Now he's got to work twice as hard just to draw. Yep. You know what I mean? So it does make a big deal when referees have to take a point away. But at the same time, you can't just be like, all right, I'm going to give you a hard warning for the second and third time. Make sure you don't do it again. Like, something needs to happen. There are certain things that happen in fights that change the trajectory no matter how many times it happened, even if it was the first time. And things need to be done about that. Like, it's a shame that these guys, that Walker has to suffer this bullshit no contest, right? Now he doesn't get a win bonus. And it goes to show that maybe Aljo had a point when it came to his, the Oscar performance that he put on that people give him so much shit for. Because I feel like had he acted like he was fine, he probably would have gone on. He probably wouldn't have been fine. And he might have lost that fight. You know what I mean? Had Johnny Walker acted like he was fucking dazed and confused and on the floor and writhing in pain, how much you want to bet that fight probably goes to a DQ?
But the confusing thing is, though, if the doctor said he is too hurt or too dazed to continue, why wasn't it a DQ?
My point is the perception, because it doesn't seem like anybody has a real answer as to what intentional and unintentional is when you ask an official. Because it's all about, they're all about, it seems like from their definition, from the way that they speak about it, they're going towards feelings with intentional and unintentional. Sure. He didn't mean to hit him there. He didn't. That's dirtiness. That's not what it is.
He was being dirty.
Right. That should never be the definition of intentional or unintentional, in my opinion.
No, but I'm asking, why wasn't this fight scored a DQ anyway? Because if the doctor's saying Johnny Walker is too hurt from that knee to continue, he can't even answer my questions.
Deemed it unintentional.
Because the ref deemed it unintentional.
Unintentional.
So because it was deemed unintentional, it's a no contest. If it was an intentional strike, a la Aljo and Piotr Jan, then it's a DQ.
Right. But so you're saying that if Johnny Walker made it seem like he was more like, I'm hurt, I'm so fucked up, then the ref would have been more likely to be like, oh, well, then that was intentional.
That is tinfoil hat, right? That's sort of like it makes you wonder, because you see the way that similar situation transpired with Aljo and how that ended up with it being a DQ. This is not that much different. Yeah. And this ended up being a no contest.
Right, with Piotr Jan being like, dude, what were you thinking?
Yeah. But because Johnny Walker ate the shot, you wonder if maybe that's why it didn't go that direction.
Yeah, when a guy is acting relatively fine, I think it's easier for the ref to be like, all right, everyone gets it here. It was a mistake. You know what I mean? Right. Like when he's not watching someone writhing in pain or whatever.
Sure.
But I'm not saying I want guys to act, because I don't.
100%.
I just want refs to be better at their job.
That is definitely that's the underlying point that we should have been getting at, because we definitely don't want all of this acting and shit, but we shouldn't have to be relying on performances at all in general for referees to be giving the right calls. Yeah.
What was confusing to me, this is the last point I want to make, is that watching this sequence play out, it almost was like Johnny Walker was the one who had done something wrong. And like the doc and the ref were like, I don't know, like questioning him. Like, why wasn't the ref over on the other side of the freaking cage scolding Ankalaev, being like, what the hell are you doing?
That's a
And
good
taking a
question.
point.
That's
Or at least, it felt like Johnny Walker was the one who was like under the magnifying glass of like, what are you doing?
I
Where
wonder if
are
point
you?
was even going to get taken if that fight continued.
Dan Mergliata would have had a talking with him. He would have been finger waving in his hand, his face, and the whole thing, fully not knowing that this man doesn't understand a fucking word he's saying. But Mergliata would have been going in on him.
Man, oh man! All right, do you guys want to match up? Do you think it's going to be a rematch between these two guys? Or do you want to match them up with potential other opponents?
Oh, my answer.
Nah, you need to
run it
rematch
back
that.
as soon as we can.
You have to run that back.
And the division is pretty stuck at the moment anyway, so let's get this figured out and see which man really steps in as a potential title challenger.
Yeah, honestly, you don't even need. I mean, you don't even really need to wait. I personally would be comfortable with them doing a catch weight at this point, just based on the circumstance, and just have them fight sooner rather than later.
Yep.
Also, here's a fucking idea. How about the doctor goes into the fucking cage with the translator?
Yeah, that was a big thing for me. It was, I don't understand why we went in there without any kind of translational support there. Like, if everybody there speaks all the same languages all the same way.
You know what's another thing I don't like? And this is its own sidebar, so I'll say this and then I guess let's not dive into it because we're already an hour into the show for 3 fights.
3 fights in, baby.
That's what happens when we have half a show.
I don't like that as soon as a fight is waived, just because one idiot waved his hands around, that means it has to be over. Like, I get it that currently that is the rule, that as soon as the hand wave happens, fight is over, nothing can be done. But, like, can we change that for scenarios like this where it's like, wait a second, like, I think there was some confusion here. Like, Johnny, what's your deal? And then he's like, oh, yeah, I'm totally fine. Why are you, what's the name of the country you're in? Oh, this. Oh, what? All right. Boom. Like, yeah, there was some miscommunication. Let's keep this fight going. Like, why can't we have room for gray areas like that? Or other times where a ref waves off a fight and then you find out a dude didn't tap. Like, why can't we be like, oh, all right, he didn't tap. Let's go right back to the position and keep the fight going. Like, why does it have to be that way? Why can't we change that rule?
Totally. Like an official review.
Yeah.
Or like a slow-mo replay.
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't get why we need that finality and to take away the ability to be like, okay, wait, there was a fuck up here. It's only been 2 minutes. Let's just keep fighting. Like
in football, right? In football, I'm not the biggest football guy, so don't kill me on this. In overtime, right? Isn't it in football? And if it's in overtime, if a certain team scores, then the game's over.
Mm-hmm. It's first to
if
score.
Score
right?
a touchdown, yes.
First to score a touchdown, the game's over. So let's say a team scores a touchdown. The referee is like, it's good.
Correct.
But then can't a coach challenge it?
Yes, exactly.
So that's the equivalent thing to me of like, imagine if once the referee is standing at the goal line and it's like, it's a good catch, there's no flags on the play, and just saying like, well, that's it. But no, in football, the opposing coach could be like, I don't think he was down, or I don't think he was in bounds. Yeah. I'm going to challenge the fucking play.
They're not like, well, Tom Brady already went to the side and had a sip of Gatorade. We can't bring him out here again now. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like,
honestly, I wouldn't even. A challenge flag, I think, would be interesting. In the middle of a fight, you just see a little fucking yellow fucking flag fly right into the octagon.
I don't fucking need that. There's enough stoppage time in all the other sports. I don't need stoppage time in fucking UFC.
I wish they would bring in yellow cards and red cards into this goddamn sport sometimes.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
I miss those.
Okay, let's move on. Can't wait for these guys to run this one back. But moving down this card, UFC 294 once again at the Etihad Arena in Abu Dhabi, UAE. Once again, back in the middleweight division, Ikram Aliskerov defeats Warlley Alves by TKO via flying knee and follow-up punches, 207 in the very first round. Omar, give us your take.
Man, another dude that probably shouldn't have been fighting, that short notice, that weight class.
The whole fucking card, you're right.
A lot of things, and he got his ass completely destroyed for it, man. And I felt bad for him. It I can't even really say it looked competitive or it was competitive. It was pretty much a wash, not too far out the gate. sparked him with a little bit of that flying knee, but then once he got him backed up, man, that was really the beginning of the end, and he collapsed Warlley Alves. He definitely put him out. So it's a great performance from Aliskerov. It definitely, I think, solidifies why he was why he was scheduled to fight Nurmagomedov Imavov in the first place. And just spoilers, I think we need to go right back to that and just reset that matchup.
Okay. Mark?
Yeah, another fight, another first-round finish for Ikram Aliskerov. And this dude must hit hard, man, because he practically dropped Alves with a jab. That didn't even look like it was all that big of a jab. And then you see he's got the killer instinct on top of it. As soon as he saw he hurt him, he follows up with the flying knee, swarms him with offense, and just gets Warlley out of there. So, yeah, I know he was booked to fight Paulo Costa at one point, which at the time everyone was like, "Wow, well, that's a crazy booking. That seems wild." But and it's still hard to tell exactly how good he is, considering Phil Hawes and Warlley Alves aren't necessarily ranked competition at this point. But it's entirely possible that he is that good, and that you can understand why the UFC was making that big of a jump at a certain point in time. So, we will see. We haven't seen a hole exposed in his game yet, and he gives us another great performance.
Staying with you, Mark, where do you think Aliskerov goes from here in middleweight?
So last week I gave two options for Michel Pereira. One of them was Nasruddin Imavov, and the other was the winner of Chris Curtis and Marc-Andre Barriault. And I think the same exact two options work for Aliskerov. So I will say give one of them to Pereira and give the other one to Aliskerov.
Okay. Omar, any other ideas?
No, like I said, I think he needs to get on that fight with Imavov, get it rescheduled and rebooked.
Okay. Moving down the list with a little more alacrity here.
Man.
A little quicker. A little lighter on our feet here.
Context clues, I got you.
Thank you. In the bantamweight division, opening up the main card of UFC 294, Said Nurmagomedov gets it done via guillotine choke over Muin Gafurov in the very first round, 1:13 of round number 1. Omar, give us your thoughts.
So my initial thought watching the beginning of this fight was, does Gafurov have a small island of hair on his back?
Dude, I was trying to figure that out too.
Right? Because it's like either a smudge mark from something or just like one thin layer, small patch of hair.
Thick layer.
That's just, like thick enough that you see that bitch clear as day on TV, but then the rest of his back is like completely clear. It was very disturbing. I got to be honest. I told my wife I'd rather see him either with a full chest, full back of hair, or completely no hair, because this like one island wasn't doing it for me. All right. Anyway, I thought this was a good fight, man. As far as Nurmagomedov was concerned, I thought Gafurov. I don't know what the game plan of Gafurov was. If it was trying to get Nurmagomedov on his back foot, if it was trying to implement some kind of pressure on Nurmagomedov, but obviously things like that aren't really going to work. Nurmagomedov has very good striking, and he also has pretty decent ground game, obviously, to say the least. And I just don't know if Gafurov was really prepared for that fight. Was this a short notice fight as well, or were they always supposed to fight?
Nah, this was always.
This was always.
At least I think, to my knowledge.
Who the hell knows anymore?
Yeah.
But Nurmagomedov, man, these opportunistic submissions sometimes with these guys, especially in the lower weight classes, are a real problem, because you get guys that like to blitz and like to come in quite a bit in the lower weight classes just because of how fast they can move. And so you'll see a lot of guys try to, do a lot of herky-jerky stuff to try to get people back up against the cage, get them to a point where when they shoot for a takedown, they can't go anywhere. And that's what Gafurov tried to get done here. But Nurmagomedov was disgustingly slick with it. Ends up going for, was it a ninja choke? I think it was a ninja choke, right?
Was it? I thought it was just a guillotine.
It was modified though, because it wasn't an over. It wasn't an over.
Maybe
he went underneath.
I'm trying to picture now. You could be right.
Anyway, it was.
My brain looks a little ninja-y. I'd have to.
It was a disgusting choke either way, and he couldn't really do anything about it at that point, man. So fantastic performance from Said Nurmagomedov. Loved it, and Gafurov's definitely got to go back to the drawing board and approach fights a little bit better.
Yeah, man. Staying with you, Omar, what do you think is next for Nurmagomedov?
that division's a little odd right now, especially with everything that's going on at the top portion of the division and kind of guys moving around towards the bottom of the division now. So I know I talked about Chris Gutierrez last week, I think, against Adrian Yanez. Yanez's leg is tore up, so who knows how long it's going to be before he comes back into the mix. So I thought Said Nurmagomedov and Chris Gutierrez might be interesting.
Okay, Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah, this one did not take long. It was a fantastic way to bounce back for Said. You know, a quick finish on a big card, can't do better. And that's what he brings, man. The guy is skilled everywhere. Sometimes he's not as effective for all 15 minutes, but you got to assume he's working on that. And really, that has been his only hole to this point. And on this night, it didn't matter because all he needed was about one. So, you know, he saw Gafurov left his neck out, immediately slipped in the guillotine or the ninja choke. We'll have to go back and remind ourselves which it was. But, yeah, really well done for Said. And I guess I'll flow right into matchups since Omar did. You know, he's had his couple losses to Raoni Barcelos and Jonathan Martinez, but he is still very, very good, and both of those are respectable losses. So I still think he's a possible contender of the future. He's only 31, so plenty of time still. I think you could shoot him back to a ranked fighter off of this, and I think that may be what Omar just did. I can't remember if Chris Gutierrez is ranked or not.
15, I think.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't think that's crazy at all. I'm going to do one more, I guess, roadblock for him before we jump back into ranked competition, and I will see if he can beat Davy Grant.
Okay.
14. Gutierrez is 14. Nurmagomedov is officially 15 now.
Oh, really? Wow. Fuck,
Yes.
well then maybe, I didn't realize they ranked him. In that case, Davy Grant doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I was debating Gutierrez myself, so maybe that's what I changed my answer to now that I know they ranked him.
That's what I mean, man. Like, I found it hard to try to give Nurmagomedov somebody behind him at this point, considering he was ranked, and then people in front of him have are either, as far as I'm concerned, have too much momentum going forward that giving them somebody backwards doesn't make any sense, or, you know, they're already booked. So,
Yeah, it's an aggressive rank for me. He's number 22 for me at the moment, but hey, if they ranked him, then yeah, I'm not going to match him backwards, so I'll go with Chris Gutierrez too in that case.
Okay. Okay, let's keep marching on here. The feature bout in the prelims of UFC 294. In the flyweight division, Muhammad Mokaev gets it done over Tim Elliott via submission via arm triangle choke at 3:03 of round number 3. Mark, give us your thoughts.
This was a hell of a performance, man. Tim Elliott is no easy task for anyone, even at this stage of his career. And he did threaten with some subs, which is the one knock on Mokaev to this point. He kind of puts himself in too many risky positions, and at some point it feels like that might bite him as he works his way up the line here. But aside from that, the dude's fantastic. He is one hell of a wrestler, one hell of a grappler, and as much as he puts himself in these bad positions at times, he is great at staying calm in them and then even reversing his way out of them. He is a very skilled kid. And now he's a skilled kid who's broken through to the top 10. So we'll see how aggressive they want to get when choosing his next opponent. But to finish Tim Elliott is a nice feather in his cap, and his next fight may very well be a big one.
Omar, your thoughts?
Yeah, dude. I think Mokaev is a real problem, man. It's hard not to really embrace that pace that kid puts in a fight, right? Just like Mark talked about, Tim Elliott is no easy out, and one of Tim Elliott's best attributes is his awkwardness and his pace. And Mokaev, I thought, had to do some adjustments early in order to kind of get the feeling of Tim Elliott. And I think once he did, man, I think we really got to see. I think I joked about it last week about, you know, this fight basically being the cartoon with two guys that are just rolling around in a dust ball. And, like, we weren't really that far from that in that fight. They were rolling around, changing positions. One guy had the top, the other guy at the bottom, rolling around, submission attempt. I mean, it got fucking crazy in there, especially towards, like, I think the second round was really where things got really kicked off in the ground game almost consistently. And then by the time we got into that third round, man, like, it was just more of the same, but just the coin had basically flipped on Mokaev's side at that point. Like, they had just gone through so many different transitions and so many different positions, so many different sequences that they had just at one point ended up where Mokaev caught him. it was just a good grappling fight that just ended up the way that it did, man. Mokaev is a problem though, because Tim Elliott has years of experience. Mokaev doesn't even have nearly as many fights as he has half as many fights as Tim Elliott does, basically. But Mokaev is full of talent and full of hard work, it seems. So he's going to be a problem.
Still only 23 years old is Muhammad Mokaev.
Yeah.
That is insane for the level of skill that he brings in here. Let's talk about where he goes from here. Mark, Mokaev, the UFC now has him ranked 10th, and he hasn't fought anybody in the top 10. So the world is his oyster. What would you do next with him?
He mentioned Kai Kara-France and Manel Kape. I'm not going to go there because I want them to fight each other just because of the beef between them. And I think the UFC will hopefully pull that trigger and match up Kape and Kai. So with them being out of the picture, I think what makes the most sense is one of Mateusz Nicolau or Alex Perez, who I think are sitting in pretty similar places right now. But I will say a fight as big as Amir Albazi is not out of the question because he's kind of sitting there waiting for a fight, and I'm not sure who else he has to fight.
I'd be down. Wow. But he's ranked number 3. That's nuts.
Who is he going to fight, though?
Yeah,
assuming they're making Kai and Kape. Like, he's not going to fight Moreno, is he? I don't think they're making that fight.
No.
So
that was pretty much who I had, though. I wanted him because I don't know what's going on with Kai Kara-France at this point. I don't know what his injury update is, or I don't even think we know what the fuck happened, right? He never really disclosed what his injury was, but did he? I don't think so. Either way, I don't know what Kai Kara-France is doing right now, and if they're not going to book that, I do think a fight between him and Manel Kape is pretty damn intriguing, I gotta say. Yeah, exactly. And if it does go between Kai Kara and Manel Kape, honestly, Mokaev is probably best suited to just chill out for the few months that might take, see who comes out ahead in that fight, and take the winner of that fight.
Okay. Cool, let's move on.
Or the loser. I'm sorry, not the winner.
It's
The
okay.
winner wouldn't make any fucking sense. The loser.
All right, one more that we can recap and match up, and then we'll jump into the lightning round and mow through the rest of these. So in the bantamweight division once again, Javid Basharat no contest between Javid Basharat and Victor Henry. Once again, the story is the doctor. Omar, you want to take us through this one?
Yeah, this fucking guy, bro. So
Poor Victor Henry.
before we ended up in the Johnny Walker situation where he basically believes that Johnny Walker doesn't know what he's doing, what he's talking about, or anything like that. We ended up in a situation with Victor Henry where he basically told Victor Henry to man the fuck up. He basically did believe that he got kicked in the balls. So that's cool.
As he's screaming on the floor.
Dog, he got kicked under his nuts. That shit, one of his balls was probably in his fucking stomach in that moment, right then and there. And then you've got this little fucking douchebag doctor telling you, I don't think it hit you in the balls, man. I'm looking at it right now. It didn't hit you in the balls.
It wasn't even, I don't think. It was, no, it didn't hit you. Like, it was that straightforward. Like,
bro,
what?
It was a disaster. I would have been so fucking furious with that doctor telling me I didn't get kicked in the balls. Anyway, it was for what we got. I guess it was a good little matchup. You know, we saw a lot of feeling out in that fight up until that point. I definitely think they need to run this back. I think just like Johnny Walker and Ankalaev, I think they need to just rematch it. Just as an aside, Victor Henry's balls are good. We have confirmed that he is good. But that doctor, from the looks of it, Dana looks like he's gonna make sure that doctor never does anything UFC again. So I don't think we need to worry about this going forward. But fuck me, man, that guy really, really was a buzzkill that night.
Mark, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was entertained by this fight while it lasted, which I knew I would be. You know, both these guys are very good. I do think it was Basharat that was the guy that was a bit more impressive from what we did see, and I think he was ahead. But unfortunately, instead of getting a true winner, we get another shit show. We get one of the worst nut shots you'll ever see. And it was fucking weird all around, man. It's another weird situation. Like, you have Victor Henry reacting as if his nuts had been literally crushed with a mallet. Then you have the idiot ref in there trying to tell him he didn't get hit in the nuts, which, as we said, was mind-blowing. But then as soon as it's finally waved off, Victor Henry is suddenly fine to sit on the stool and have like a 30-second conversation with Basharat where he's dapping him up and they're talking, when previously he couldn't go 5 seconds without wailing and collapsing. So he even made it look weird for himself. And I'm not trying to say his nuts weren't hurt, because I know he fucking got an ultrasound and whatever. I'm sure they were very hurt. But, like, he just made it feel even weirder that he literally couldn't stop screaming and rolling around. And then they waved it off, and he, like, stands up and sits on the chair, and he's like, "No, Javid, it's all good, man. I totally get it." It's like, why? Weren't you just fucking writhing in pain? So the whole thing was very, very strange, but shitty ending to a good fight.
It's true. It's true. You think these guys run it back as well?
That would be the hope.
Have to, right?
I don't know what – I don't know if there's, like, any type of delay Victor Henry is going to experience here that prevents him from training. Like, I'm not sure what the prognosis is on whatever happened to his nuts. So that's the only thing. I know Javid Basharat is trying to appeal it, which is ridiculous. I feel like Victor Henry should just take a picture of his balls and send them to Javid. Because Javid still thinks he didn't hit him in the nuts, which is wild.
Really?
Yeah. He posted today saying, like, look at any replay. You can see it doesn't hit him. So, yeah, it's a very weird one.
Very strange. Okay. Let's now jump into our lightning round. Mark and Omar, please give me your rapid-fire takes of these results. Trevor Peak, UD over Muhammad Yahya. Omar, take it.
This was a scrap, dog. To me, the big takeaway here was Yahya seems to be the more technical striker, and Trevor Peak just seems to be the goddamn dog. That man was not going to be denied. He was walking forward, straight punches or be damned. Trevor Peak was out there to kill or be killed, man. And I think it got the best of Yahya. I had him up 3 rounds to none in the end. I think some people had him 2-1, which is fine. But definitely Trevor Peak's fight.
Mark.
Yeah, he still fought like Trevor Peak, but I actually thought he fought a pretty controlled, measured fight compared to what we have previously seen from him. Like, he had his blitzes and things, but he was much more under control than what we've seen earlier. And he even worked the wrestling in where he actually had a good amount of success in this fight.
Yeah.
And Yahya just didn't have all that much to offer when it came to stopping Peak from walking him down. So, rough night for him. Nice bounce back from Peak, and yeah, I definitely think he got that W on the cards.
Mark, staying with you for Dumas, UD over Azaitar.
This fight was pretty underwhelming, in my opinion.
Yep.
It really felt like either guy could have done more, and that neither guy necessarily grabbed the reins and won that fight. It came down to round 3. I think you could safely say that Dumas had won the first, and Azaitar had won the second. Round 3 was really damn close. It was tough to call. All three judges happened to go Dumas's way, and he gets the W. But I think he looked a bit tentative, maybe due to Azaitar's power, and I think that Azaitar looked a bit sluggish, maybe from like rarely ever fighting. So yeah, I didn't love the performance from either guy.
Omar.
Yeah, I'd have to kind of second that motion. I also want to point out that it's 2023. Pulling hair is like the bullshit of all bullshits.
Dude, there's an example. Like, you didn't accidentally grab his hair and hold him. Like,
correct.
That was intentional. So why?
Yeah.
That's not a point? Like,
that should have been an immediate point. And
right?
And so much so that they like gave DC shit for DC acting like that wasn't going to be a point or shouldn't have been a point.
Yeah.
I think DC was joking on the broadcast and they tried to come for that man's throat. But yeah, I agree. There needs to be more consistency with these kind of things, and if we're worried about taking points away or something like that, then there needs to be some sort of accountability some way, because people are getting away with fucking murder in these fights, and it's crazy.
Yeah, this card was a catastrophe. We still have another fight with fouls being a feature part of it that we didn't get to yet. It's fucking whole way down the card.
Yeah
Man. Okay, let's move on. Let's see. Mike Breeden, round 3 knockout over Anshul. What's up?
No, go ahead. This fight is crazy.
Over Anshul Jubli. Mark, go.
I did not realize that Nate Diaz was on this card. What a fucking show from Mike Breeden in that third round. And, we know he can let the hands go. He always does, even though he's been 0-3 in the octagon thus far. And he was trying to here also, but Jubilee was just getting the better of him all fight long, and he was looking good. He never even wrestled. He was up 2-0. And then fucking Mike Breeden just pulled out the Nate Diaz, baby. He was a combination of willpower, cardio, and just pure mental warfare to win that fight. He came out for round 3. His eyebrow is flapping in the wind. He starts barking at Jubilee, literally walking him down, barking. He's chanting USA at him while he's throwing combos. He's working in some slaps, and he froze the absolute hell out of Anshul Jubilee. Like, it literally looked like Jubilee was like, what the fuck just happened to this guy, and why is this happening to me right now in a fight that I was winning? And he got frozen, and he let himself get caught, and Breeden put him down face first and got himself an enormous, and I'd assume job-saving knockout.
Omar.
Yeah, man, I felt bad for this kid. This Jubal was kind of being, pedestaled as India's first MMA fighter in the UFC, and
Not the first.
is he not the first? I honestly couldn't remember another one, so I couldn't.
The Buller brothers were in the UFC.
Okay,
At least those I can think of right now.
definitely one of the more recent ones in recent history. There's not,
Oh, for sure.
there's not a ton of them.
The next Indian Hope is kind of what he was being billed as. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. And boy, did he shit the bed. The first round, I thought he was doing work, man. The kid seems like he's talented. He's got decent striking. He's got some decent takedown defense, it looks like. We don't really know what his ground game as a whole looks like, or even.
He's a wrestler.
what-
That's what he's. That's
Oh,
what
is
we
he?
saw in his debut? Yeah, and in his little run through whatever that show was called.
Contender Series?
No,
Oh, Road to.
yeah, that.
Oh, I didn't realize that's what he came off of. Okay. Fucking bubbles. Yeah, anyway. The first and the second round I thought were super interesting to watch him do what he was doing. And in the second round, Breeden started doing some of that, like, Hulk shit, and it seemed to sort of be getting him, but not really. He was still able to get in there and still throw the jab and still be active. Towards the end of the second round, he starts getting lit up a little bit. And then in the third round, Mike Breeden just comes out full bore, starts screaming, and this kid, like, drops his hands and looks completely lost. Like, I've never seen anything like that. The only thing that came to my head in that moment was that had ultimate shades of Cerrone and Nate Diaz. 100%. And even then, it wasn't that bad. It was bad. It was really bad. But it wasn't that bad. And I hope maybe that was this the first time he was, like, on a big stage or something like that? Like, has he been, like, Apex the whole time or something?
I guess, yeah. I don't think his debut was on a pay-per-view.
I mean, something got to him. Something got to him mentally, because he checked out in that third round, and it cost him the entire fight that he was winning, dude. He was winning the first and the second round. He would have walked away with the W, and he let it go.
Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, it was in the Apex's debut, yeah.
Okay. Naimov gets it done over Nathaniel Wood by UD. Mark, go.
This was a frustrating fight, man. Weird fight overall, because it didn't really feel like Nathaniel Wood lost it necessarily. Like, he did on the cards, don't get me wrong. But I think he hurt Naimov more than Naimov ever hurt him. He's the one that came close to finishing the fight. I think if that was a 5-round fight, he absolutely wins it. But on the cards, despite all of that, he didn't win. So it's an odd one, considering I thought he looked very good and lost. And then you do have to point out that the scales were certainly tipped by more than a few instances of illegality from Naimov in this fight that no one cared about. 2 bad nut shots. I thought after the second one a point was going to get taken. It didn't. A cage grab that might have stopped a takedown. He was grabbing Wood's gloves late in the fight when Wood was trying to, put bombs on him after he had knocked him down. I mean, it was a lot. So it's just another fight that's kind of marred by some things. And, it's a tough one for Wood to swallow, I think. But in terms of the fight, Naimov did manage to control enough of those first 2 rounds that you did have to score it for him. I think him being a big featherweight who had just fought at lightweight previously versus Wood being a former bantamweight actually ended up being a big factor. I think that's the first time Wood really had to deal with the size and the way he did since he has come up to featherweight. And it hurt him. It hurt him in the clinch. And Naimov was able to lean on that and make sure he banked 2 of those rounds. So he's right in the 145-pound mix now, I guess. Kind of a crazy result to me.
Yeah. Omar?
Yeah, I kind of would have to agree, man. I think we've kind of gotten to a point now where we might have to keep our eye on Naimov. But, yeah, I thought it was pretty clear.
Okay. Victoria Dudikova, UD over Jin Fry. Omar?
I thought it was a good fight. I guess a little underwhelming, all things considered. Trying to remember what I had this fight scored. Oh, yeah. I mean, again, I wasn't really super taken away from this fight or anything like that. I thought Dudikova did what she needed to do in this fight. I thought she had the first round and she had the third round. But for the most part, I thought she did what she had to do in order to win the fight. But again, nothing major to take away from me.
Mark?
Yeah, we got to see what Dudikova was about now after she won her debut off a freak injury that was like seconds in or a minute in or whatever it was. And she's definitely solid. She was a step ahead in the striking all fight, and that's what won it for her. She had the nice knockdown in the first, flash knockdown. But I'm not sure we saw just yet what it is that would have made her like minus 600 coming into this fight to be that big of a favorite. I thought we would see more of a dominant type of game. But Fry fought tough. You know, she always does. Her record isn't great, but she always seems to be in competitive fights that she does, unfortunately, end up losing. But, yeah, she couldn't get it done, and Dudikova is now 2-0 in the UFC, so we will see.
Okay, last one. Opening UFC 294 in Abu Dhabi. In the middleweight division, Nurmagomedov gets his first UFC win over Bruno Silva by UD. Mark, go first.
Well, now we know. We've all been waiting to see the mystique of Nurmagomedov revealed, and we finally got it. The dude is a devastating kicker, incredible dexterity with his kicks, hyper-aggressive, definitely a scary guy in there. But despite all the offensive positives, he didn't appear to be quite as good defensively. Even on the feet, you saw some things where he was a little reckless with his defense, and then especially regarding his takedown D, which Silva did exploit in this fight. Not enough to win it, and I applaud Char's willingness to throw from his back. He was beating up Silva from his back, but he does need to increase his urgency to get back up, I think, and needs to work on that takedown D. But with that said, there's plenty of time for progression. We'll see how he grows and improves here in the UFC, and obviously that was a very impressive start.
Yes, sir. Omar, take us home.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if. So first of all, Ginger Khabib, he is not. You cannot have the moniker Ginger Khabib if you can't get up or stop takedowns. And I think that was one of the bigger takeaways, right? I definitely love the dexterity in his legs, the way that he uses it to keep his range, the different strikes that he's able to use from both sides of his body. But when it comes to that grappling, especially for somebody in Bruno Silva, that like it's not like he's known for taking people down all the time, right? He's not like this like world class grappler or takedown artist or anything like that. When you see that at this level, and makes you wonder how far he can really go up, especially with all the height that he has behind him. I think obviously the thing he's going to have to focus on the most now at this point is going to be his takedown defense and making sure that people aren't able to take him down. But more than any of that, I'm hoping that his decision to not be on the ground changes. I think his willingness to be on bottom was probably the thing that's going to fuck him the most going forward. So hopefully he figures all that out. But as far as the striking was concerned, I thought it was pretty impressive. And I'm not sure. Do you guys know what's going on with the eye thing? Like
I don't know.
I don't, actually.
I'm trying to figure out if he's Michael Bisping this like career of his, or
would he be allowed to fight though if that was the case?
I mean,
because didn't Bisping have to like dodge things and not let people realize in the tests? Like,
yeah, I have no. I mean, to be fair, he hasn't said anything. I don't think about his eye, but it's just the eye looks so sketchy.
Yeah, it does. It does. I just want to clarify real quick. Bruno Silva is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So
That's why I clarified it to takedown artist was more
okay.
what I was going for, not grappler.
Agreed totally.
Takedown artist.
He's not a world-class wrestler.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get the update now in the Priaulx rankings. Mark.
All right, so we actually have quite a few this week. It's funny because they're all from like the lower portion of the card. None of the big fights really ended up giving us much movement. People who were expected to win won mainly. So we will have 5 risers and 3 fallers. I'll start with the fallers. Bruno Silva, off his loss, goes from number 20 to number 25 in my middleweight ranks. And I'll give you the corresponding riser, which obviously is Nurmagomedov, who was not ranked at all. He made his debut, so he jumps into my rankings, obviously 1 spot ahead of Bruno Silva. So he is already the number 24 ranked middleweight. That is a quality win in a debut. Going back to the fallers, we have Anshul Jubli, falls from number 72 to number 77. At lightweight, I'll give you the corresponding there as well, which is Mike Breeden. He was down at number 89 at lightweight. He had been 0-3. He jumps up to number 76 now after finally getting his first UFC W. Last faller, Abu Azaitar, drops from number 49 to number 55 in my middleweight ranks after a long time out and then returning with a loss. And then to finish with the other 3 risers, Victoria Dudikova from number 40 to number 35 at women's strawweight. Muhammad Naimov with a big one from number 43 all the way up to number 20 at featherweight, beating Nathaniel Wood. Pretty significant win for him. So as I said a few minutes ago, he's definitely in the featherweight mix. And then the last one, Muhammad Mokaev. He was my number 12 ranked flyweight, and he is now my number 9. I have him 1 spot higher than the UFC does.
Nice.
And that is
Very
it
nice.
for this week.
Okay, let's get this thing rolling. Omar, tell us what's going on in the world of MMA outside of the cages, inside the MMA sphere.
Well, as Mark alluded to very early on in the show, we have a larger update in terms of fight announcements. This is the only fight announcement that was made this week, and it is John Jones is now out of his fight against Stipe Miocic from 295. John Jones has suffered a torn pectoral muscle that is completely apparently detached from the bone that is supposed to keep everything in place. Looks like surgery might be necessary, and then supposedly the rumor is he's supposed to be out 8 months. At least they said. Mark has since heard different, that it might be maybe half of that time. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. Color me shocked. But Stipe is also out of the fight. He will not be taking any kind of replacement fighter for this fight. So both John Jones and Stipe are out of the Madison Square Garden card completely. It will be now replaced by Sergey Pavlovich versus Tom Aspinall for the interim heavyweight championship of the world. Again, this will all be going down November 11th at Madison Square Garden. Next on the list, I hope you guys enjoyed as many Modelos as you could at a good old UFC fight, because those days are now over. Modelo is no longer the UFC sponsorship for, I guess, beer. Is that just it? A beer sponsor, I guess?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, the official beer. Kind of.
Yeah, there you go. The official beer. The official beer is now, once again, Bud Light. We have made a full 360 and gone right back to Bud Light pre-2019. Modelo was with the UFC for 4 years, 4 solid years, countless fantastic goddamn commercials.
Really? Yeah, I'm going to miss the commercials.
I am going to miss the shit out of those commercials. Those are all really good.
Yeah.
But apparently the deal is going to be worth upwards of $100 million. So looks like a lot of people are out here winning.
So Bud Light is allocating $100 million of advertising budget and giving it to the UFC.
Is that what that
be
means?
their
I have no
sponsor.
idea what that means.
I assume so.
Oh, I don't know. I don't.
Generally,
no
sponsors pay the company.
Wow.
All right. Next on the list, a hell of an announcement. Anthony Pettis and Benson Henderson will be fighting a trilogy fight, headlining Karate Combat It's just
Gombach.
combat. It's just
Gombach,
combat.
yep.
It's out of Asia, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. Oh, I don't think it's. Is it out of Asia? I don't think it's out of Asia.
It's not. I don't know actually.
It's Karate Combat. I'm just being a dick.
It's Karate Combat, man.
Karate Combat 43. This fight will be happening at 170 pounds, and will be going down December 15th at the Expo at the World Trade Market in Las Vegas. I was telling my wife earlier, the first time these dudes fought was on my birthday weekend, and that was the last WEC show in history. And now, what was that? That had to have been 2010 then, because I was turning 21. So now, 13 years later, again, on my birthday weekend, these two are going to be fighting.
Wow.
This is very exciting stuff.
That's crazy, man. Dude,
What are the rules here?
karate.
Yeah.
Karate
So
only.
for I don't know
just
I don't know the nuances of it, but what I can tell you from clips and things that I've seen, striking to the ground is allowed. They're not quickly looking to stand people back up.
but you can take someone to the ground, or you have to knock them down.
I
I think you have to knock them down, but you can hit
Or
them
trip
on the
them, right?
ground.
So it's straight striking. Oh, you can
Yes.
trip.
Trip or sweep, maybe.
I
mean,
think
if-
it's a sweep. I don't think you can trip them. I think it's just like Muay Thai where you can't. It's not a trip so much as it is like kicking their leg out from under them, essentially.
Feels
Right,
like
you
there's a
get-
pretty big advantage in this fight for Anthony Pettis. If you're
I
asking.
would imagine so.
But doesn't Benson also have a Taekwondo background?
I mean, he may, but he ain't the striker Anthony Pettis is.
The other thing we should also mention, because it's kind of amazing, is this shit apparently is going to be free on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
No
well,
way.
Yeah.
And dude, Anthony Pettis, on his social is putting it out there. This is the biggest deal in karate combat history. So
I guess he's not fighting Cedric Doumbé.
No.
So much for that idea.
That would have been a tall
I
test,
really thought
though.
they would do that.
You guys know I'm Team Pettis all the way. APFC.
No, I
Milwaukee
feel that.
Fight night coming up less than 4 weeks. Can't wait. I think this is brilliant, actually. Like, forgetting the fact that I'm under the employ of Anthony Showtime Pettis. Just as an observer and as a MMA fan, this is brilliant stuff from Anthony Pettis. The guy is transitioning himself into his post prime MMA career pretty brilliantly. Like, the most strategic moves, like he boxes in an exhibition. He boxes Roy Jones Jr. And now he's having a trilogy with Benson Henderson. You know how many more times the Showtime kick is going to get played between now and then? You know how much more Anthony Pettis is going to be out there in the ether with that Showtime kick because it's Benson Henderson as his opponent again? Just brilliant stuff, man. Absolutely. Like, hats off.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I love it.
Thank you.
I'm always here for these matchups, man. I don't really care where they fight. I just love the fact that they're fighting again. All right. Next on the list, and I am not going to belabor this point, but I figured we might as well talk about it because it was out there. But Dylan Dennis has been officially released from his Bellator contract. Apparently, Bellator has an active TV deal with Showtime, which Misfits Boxing and DAZN are direct competitors of Showtime. So that caused a certain penalty clause to kick in. So it caused Dylan Dennis to be fined $100,000, apparently. And now he's gone from Bellator. So chances are we ain't ever going to see that kid fight again, which, whatever. Next on the list.
Ariel seems to think he is going to be in the UFC.
Dude, I'm all for it.
He
Dude,
seems
I
pretty
want-
sure.
Are you?
He was
All for
he was
it.
pretty much. I forget who he was talking to, but he was like, "Oh, he will absolutely be in the UFC." He was like,
I want to see
between-
this. Yeah.
between Connor picking up a phone and being like, "Hey,
My
boy in the UFC," and between the amount of social media followers that he has,
Yes.
he was like, "There's no way that he will not have a UFC fight."
I guess that's valid. I definitely forgot. I definitely forgot about Connor being able to just pick up the phone.
By the way, while you mentioned Bellator, do you have a Bellator update in this sphere, or can I give the one I have quickly?
Oh, give the one you have. Oh, is it? No. Yeah, give it one.
So
Yeah.
also, according to Ariel, Bellator 301 is 100% proceeding as planned.
Oh, okay.
No concerns about the event. He said it will be the last in 2023.
Oh.
And will be the last under the banner of Viacom as we know it. He didn't go as far as saying there won't be a Bellator. He didn't say, like, it will be broken up. He didn't say it will be sold. He just kind of stopped right there. And he said something like, so a new chapter in 2024. Like, that was how he worded it. So I don't know what the fuck that means.
Wow.
But at least we know we're getting that event.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
All right. Last thing I have as far as news is concerned here is Michael Venom Page. It looks like Michael Venom Page is officially in talks with the UFC to get some things done.
Yeah.
They are interested. Michael Venom Page is interested. So I would expect we see or hear something hopefully in the next couple weeks. Other than that, that's all we got for you this week.
If Wonderboy beats Rachmanov, obviously he will be at too high of a level in the division for that fight to happen. If he loses to Rachmanov, they better book Wonderboy versus MVP fucking immediately for MVP's debut.
Yes, 100%. Oh, 100%.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
And not saying he deserves necessarily to be fighting someone ranked that high. I don't know that I believe he's a top 10 welterweight in the UFC. But just for the sake of, I need to see that fight.
Yeah, we need it. I thought the same thing. That's like the very first matchup your head goes to.
Yeah.
Okay, Omar, what else?
That's it, bud. That's all we got.
That's it. All right, gentlemen. A little bit of trivia, and then we're out of here. A little early. Feels like a half day at school.
We went for a good while on this episode, actually.
We did. It always happens, though, right?
Every time.
Well, because we know we have the freedom to give all of our thoughts without Mike fucking rushing us along.
So with this win, Islam Makhachev is now tied with his teammate, Khabib, with most consecutive wins in the lightweight division with 13. Who did Islam pass to get to this spot?
Tony.
At the Omar?
Say it one more time.
Who did Islam pass who had 12 wins? Who had 12 consecutive lightweight wins? Mark says Tony Ferguson.
I think it would kind of. There's not a ton of people at lightweight that are just like winning without getting their asses beat at some point. Yeah, I guess I'll go. I can't think of anybody else, to be honest. I wish I had at least another competing answer. But I think it very well might be Tony Ferguson.
It is Tony Ferguson. Very good.
Yeah.
Props to Mark for the shotgun answer.
Yeah, for sure.
Knew it right away. I wondered if this one would have been a little too easy for you guys. But
Yeah.
you win some, you lose some in the trivia game.
It's been a lot of times where you hear about that Tony win streak and how he never got a title shot despite the crazy streak.
So many injuries and pullouts.
Yes.
The fight that we never got. That's
Only
it.
The one trivia?
Oh, that's all I got.
I should have brought one this week. Oh, well. Let's go to bed.
Let's go to bed early. Can't wait. All right, boys. Fun one. Next week we will also pretty much have half a show. Next week we're only previewing UFC Fight Night. I think it's
Almeida versus
Lewis
Lewis, right?
versus Lewis. Yeah,
Whose name is first in that billing?
Almeida.
Is it Almeida's is first?
Yeah.
But are we going to do the all-time featherweight top 10, as we mentioned?
I'm down.
Featherweight?
That's what we were up to.
Okay.
We did the women all together, and then we did flyweight, and then we did bantamweight. So if we're doing one, it would be featherweight, which is not an easy one at all.
It's not an easy one. And we finally get to the weight division where it'll be interesting to see what you guys do with Mr. Conor McGregor in the all-time rankings at featherweight.
Yeah.
It might be all over the place.
I always say about Conor, there's guys he would be ahead of on an overall list that he would be behind in specific weight class lists.
Sure.
He's a tricky one.
He is. All right, let's get out of here. All right, boys. See you next week.
All right.
All right. Peace.
Peace.